5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you all for being here today. I am very happy to welcome you to the first event of this kind organized by 3B ICT Network, and I hope it is going to be a success. To that end, we prepared a small but compact and hopefully meaningful agenda. Before I go into the agenda, please allow me to do two things. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Andrei Kelemen, and I am the CEO of Cluj IT Cluster. Cluj IT Cluster, as the name says, is a cluster organization based on the IT value chain. We are located in Cluj, the second largest city in Romania after the capital, Bucharest, with a population of approximately 500,000 inhabitants and a hotbed for innovation and digital industries with more than 1,200 IT companies and 20,000 people working in the sector. These figures make the IT industry the main economic pillar of our region. Cluj IT Cluster is also a founding member of 3B ICT Network, and this takes me to the second point I wanted to make before I introduce the agenda. 3B ICT Network is the informal network of IT clusters and business associations from three micro-regions, the Balkans, the Black Sea, and the Baltic Sea, hence the 3B abbreviation. Currently, 3B ICT Network includes 13 such organizations from Albania, Bulgaria, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Greece, Latvia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Romania and Serbia. By the way, we are always looking to identify new partners, so if anyone here is interested in taking this conversation further, please do not hesitate to contact us. We will be more than happy to organize a chat with you and understand how we can collaborate. Now, back to our event and the agenda we prepared for you for today. Immediately after my short introduction, we will have Mrs. Marta Bataia Masala from the European Commission. Marta is a policy officer at the Industrial Forum, Alliances and Clusters Unit at the Director General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs. So a very appropriate person for the topic or the purpose of our event today. She has more than 8 years of experience working on different monitoring projects such as the SME Performance Review, Digital Transformation Monitor, and Advanced Technologies for Industry. She has co-authored numerous reports and papers, mainly on SMEs and advanced technologies, and she is currently the project manager for digital technologies at the Advanced Technologies for Industry project. She also serves as an expert in several policy networks at European level. Marta will be with us for approximately 20 minutes, during which she will have the time for a presentation about the industrial policies of the EU and the role of cluster organizations in the actions that the European Commission is deploying or planning in the near future. If time allows, a short Q&A will follow. Immediately after Marta's intervention, I will pass the floor into the capable hands of our good friend, Filip Stojanovic. Filip is a man of many trades with vast international experience and one of the most enthusiastic supporters of 3B ICT Network. Filip is currently the director of USAID's Future Growth Initiative, which is a program designed to spur productive economic activity across Central Asia, including Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Filip will moderate the second sequence in our event, an expert panel discussion where we will approach hot topics such as the aftermath of COVID-19, between challenges and opportunities, Europe's positioning in the global tech world, and finally, the role of ITC clusters organization in supporting the industry in general and the SMEs in particular. I will leave Filip to introduce at the right moment all the other invited panelists, but let me assure you that they are all exceptional people. Before we dive into the actual program, I want to thank everybody that made this event possible. I mentioned Filip already, but there have been others involved as well. Our colleagues at BIT Alliance for taking care of all the organizational matters, my own team at Cluj IT Cluster, that handled the communication for the event, and all the other partners in the 3B ICT network under the very good coordination of Salvi Sroga from Green Tech Latvia. A particular thank you goes out to our good friends at Digital SME Alliance and Sebastiano Tofaletti, who is here with us today. And one more thing, because we want to make this a series of events with relevance to you and the organizations you are presenting, we prepared a very short survey that will allow you to give us feedback on this event, but also to suggest topics and people you would like to see and interact with in the near ones. Everybody who registered to this event will receive it and will be kindly asked to fill it in. I hope you will find those 2 minutes and give us the chance to improve. So without further ado, now I pass the microphone to Mrs. Marta Bataia Masala. Marta, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Andre. Thank you for the presentation and for introducing myself. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My presentation of today, I would try to explain a bit what are the main actions that we are taking place at the European Commission, and more precisely, what are the activities and roles that we have specifically in my unit in the European Commission, more precisely at DG GROW. Just for your knowledge or your understanding, DG GROW went under reorganization at the beginning of this year, and different units were created in order to give support, especially for the recovery of the COVID pandemic in Europe. So in my case, the Industrial Forum, Alliances and Clusters unit is a very specific unit where it supports different networks inside the internal market in the EU, and also how we can improve our competitiveness towards other regions in the world. Next slide, please. First of all, what I want to give some information to you is about industrial strategy. Unfortunately, the former industrial strategy was officially published the 10th of March of 2020. And as you can imagine, what came next was an international lockdown and a big COVID pandemic that put all of us on hold on a digital mode. And we had somehow to reshape not only our lives, but our economy, our industry, and the way that we socialize. And the industrial strategy back in 2020, it's last year, but many things has happened. It presented 3 main points. The first point, it was a green transition. Second, it was global competitiveness. And third of all, it was digital transition. Just for you to have also an understanding why we had these 3 pillars is that because when our president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, presented her strategy for the years to come, she put it as the core, the Green Deal, the European Green Deal, and Europe Fit for the Digital Age. So the green and digital, the twin transition, these are the 2 actions that we are trying very much on all our activities and policy recommendations to put into place. And the industrial strategy was one of the examples. So on the former industrial strategy, we're discussing that the green transition, we set a set of very, let's say, challenging goals, and we wanted to become a climate neutral continent by 2050, which is very, very challenging. So this was one of the goals. Then we put it also as a goal to have the right conditions to have global competitiveness, to have higher, let's say, participation in global value chains. So Europe to be more upfront on the global competitiveness. And thirdly, the promotion and support of digital transformation to support businesses to uptake new technologies, specifically digital technologies. So this was what we had in 2020 on the industrial strategy. Next slide, please. And also what it was presented, it was a list of 14 industrial ecosystems. So what we did, it was an in-depth analysis of what are the 14 industrial ecosystems more important for the economic development and competitiveness on Europe. And
sorry, Marta, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now yes.
Oh, sorry
we lost you for a little bit.
Okay, so I just repeat I just go a bit backwards on what I was saying. So with this new industrial strategy, we defined 14 industrial ecosystems. We know that there are many more, but these are at least the ones that are the core of relevance of the internal market, European internal market. As an example, here we have tourism, proximity and social economy, retail, construction, digital health, and so on and so forth. So here are the 14 industrial ecosystems. And actually, on our reorganization at DG Grow, we created different units that are specifically focused on each of these 14 industrial ecosystems. Basically, because we understand that our efforts need, in order to support these sectors to become more competitive in the years to come. Next slide, please. Then the crisis hit us, and we had, as you know, a huge crisis, not only in Europe, but all over the world. And here what I put to all of you is like freshly data that are coming from our Chief Economist unit in DG Grow, that they did an analysis of the turnover over the last past year and how this was affected in the European market. So, and as you can see, tourism sector was one of the sectors that were hit the most. Textile, it was also very much hit just for the fact of the different locations on the different, let's say, providers or stakeholders on the textile sector. And we have also mobility, transport, and automotive that were also very much hit during the pandemic. But however, on the positive side, we can see that the digital sector was one of the sectors that flourished, and it is an obvious thing. This event, for instance, takes place on a digital mode and not physically. So we had somehow to adapt to the new reality. And one of, I might say, the positive points of this pandemic is the further uptake or the increase of uptake of digital technologies. I have also included here as an example, in case you're interested, to see the fluctuation of the confidence of indicators for the different sectors. And as you can see that some of the sectors were very, very much hit over the past year. And this indeed is very important for the Chief Economist unit to understand which type of sectors now we need to put our efforts to help them further. And later on, I will explain you which sectors are and which activities we are taking in place in order to support them. Next slide, please. So then we have the new industrial strategy. So as you can imagine, in 1 year, we do not publish every year an industrial strategy, but it was very much needed that we had somehow to adapt the former industrial strategy and to update a bit and to provide, let's say, new sources of policy recommendations due to the pandemic. And the new industrial strategy was published last month in the month of May, beginning of May. And we somehow, it was an adaptation of the former industrial strategy, but we highlight 3 main points. The first one is strengthening the single market resilience, analyze and address the strategic dependencies, and accelerating the twin transition, the green and the digital. This was very, very much discussed, and right now, actually, we are currently working on creating new projects that are supporting these 3 main actions that were established on the new industrial strategy. Next slide, please. So here we have the transition pathways. And the transition pathways, as I was previously mentioning, we have the 14 industrial ecosystems. And right now, we have identified with the analysis that I have provided to you from the Chief Economist unit, that there are four ecosystems, industrial ecosystems, that has been hit the most by the COVID pandemic. These are tourism, construction, mobility, and energy-intensive industries. So these 4 sectors has been hit the most, and we believe that we should start supporting these sectors. Of course, we will not leave behind the other 10, but these ones, our cabinet and the high level of representative of the European Commission thought that these 4 industrial ecosystems should work further on the development of transition pathways, on how we can support them to the twin transition and how they can somehow shift the threats to the opportunities. And this, as you can see, is an action that, okay, warrants in the European Commission, but needs to be also supported by the member states, and at the end of all, by the different stakeholders that are playing different roles. And here, clusters play a very, very important role. So these four industrial ecosystems are right now drafting what are the pathways, the transition pathways that can support them to uptake the twin transition, the digital and the green. And here I have put for you a few examples. So we see that on the green transition pathways, there is a priority for those ecosystems that have biggest challenges on the climate goals. Remember that at the very beginning, we put these very, very challenging goals on Europe becoming climate neutral. These still stays into place, so we need to support these sectors in order to achieve these goals. Also to provide somehow tools to make that understand what are the technology trends that can support the sustainability of the business and to be more climate neutral. And to have, also we have created different actions that are linked to the sustainability. I put into example the farm to fork strategy. Also, the colleagues of the energy intensive industry, they're developing new strategies to support the industries, and so on and so forth. Also on the digital side, we have put into place, let's say, two areas. One is like the basic digital transformation, so uptake or digitalize the basic needs. So this can be, as an example, so adopt broadband connectivity to start an e-commerce business, and so on and so forth. So this would be perhaps more linked to traditional SMEs, but on the other side, give more support to these disruptive startups and SMEs that they just look forward on adopting AI applications, blockchain, and so on. So support the different characteristics of businesses and SMEs, because no one fits all, so we could not put just one single strategy. So we very much make this differentiation. Next slide, please. Here I put a few examples, because this co-creation, you have seen that I put the European Commission, member states, and different stakeholders. These co-creations cannot take place only at high level. This needs to take place levels. So on the part of the players that are involved on the transition pathways, and on the development of these ideas, we have the industrial forums. So this is a forum of different stakeholders from different sectors, where they try to give opinion on how we can support the European businesses and the industry in Europe. Also, we have the high-level group on energy-intensive industries. This is a high-level group only specifically created for energy-intensive industry. And we have in place the development of different high-level groups that can support the 14 industrial ecosystems. So now we are very much discussing who can be member of these stakeholder groups and how they can support each other. On the other side, other players that play an important role is the industrial associations, the industrial alliances, Enterprise Network, the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, skill roundtables. So here you put a bit of examples, because I mean, they should be like top down but bottom up as well. So we see that the interaction should take place in both sides. Next slide, please. This is an example that I put of how we are trying to support the different stakeholders to co-create. It's not an action that is done by, for instance, for Enterprise Network, and that's it, but it's an action that takes place for Enterprise Network, the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, and the Smart Specialization. Also, for you to understand, with this reorganization I was previously mentioning at DigiGrow, these three actors, these three stakeholders, now we are all of us working on the same unit. So we have our group of colleagues that are representing Enterprise Network, myself, that I'm one of the members of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, and we also have colleagues that are working on the Smart Specialization. So what we try to do is the three different teams to join efforts and to go to one single goal, that they support the different stakeholders to achieve these transition pathways that I was previously mentioning. So we believe that by doing this, the co-creation and an interaction between the different stakeholders around Europe would be more fluid, and from that we will gain not only us, because we will gain on communication, but also at the end of all, the end users, which are the SMEs. Next slide. And here I wanted to discuss with you, or at least to present in case you were not aware, about the main, let's say, activities that we have many activities, but this is perhaps one of the most relevant activities that we have inside the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So what we have created with the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, and this somehow was born during the last European Cluster Collaboration Platform Week, it was to create different, in particular, 3 main groups, expert groups, that would support us and give a recommendation on how to move forward on the cluster community. For that, we created 3 expert groups. One, it was focused mainly on the green transition. The second one was following the digital transition, and the third one was the resilience. In my case, I was the representative of the the digital transition. And what we were doing is, like, we had every expert group, we had a group of 10 experts that were giving us their ideas or the recommendations. We had kind of 5 to 10 recommendations per each expert group, and every single meeting that was taking into place, so it was every other week, we were discussing one of the recommendations that was written in our expert group analysis. So in the case of digital transitions, we were discussing, for instance, the role of public-private partnerships and how this can support the uptake of digital technology. So, for instance, this was one of the recommendations that we had, and during one expert group, the different experts were giving us examples. We were discussing how cluster organizations can play a better role, what can be done, what are the gaps, what are the challenges. And after each expert group, we draft the different recommendations. It was precisely 2 weeks ago that we finalized this tour of expert group meetings, and right now we already have the recommendation policies that I have put here the link. In case any of you are interested, I'm happy to share the PowerPoint presentations and for you to click and to go directly to these recommendations, because I believe that perhaps for many of you this can be interesting. So there you can see the list of all the recommendations per each, let's say, group: green, digital, and resilient. Next slide, please. And here I just put 2 examples of the work, even though before I was giving you already the example of the PPPs. But here are 2 examples of the activities that we were doing and discussing with the expert groups. So, for instance, when we go to the digital, to the green transition, I always have digital on my head. Sorry about that. But when we were talking about the recommendation of green transition needs and as an agent of change, so here we were discussing using clusters as drivers of change, accelerators, enablers of this green transition. So be somehow the portparole and the supporters of SMEs to understand how this green transition can take into place. And in this case, the Austrian representative, so the expert from Austria, gave us the example of what they are doing in their country. So the Austrian National Cluster Platform, so they manage between them and also the Ministry of Digital to somehow create different cluster activities to support this green transition. So this was kind of a best practices that the other experts could implement or could disseminate to other cluster organizations about something that can be done and implemented. Another example here is the integration of physical and digital systems, which is very, very much important, at least for our ICT clusters and for the clusters that they want to go further on the digital transition. So one of the recommendation was to increase the capacity of advanced businesses and also shifting from more traditional businesses to uptake of digital technologies. And here I remember that the representative of Finland, he gave us examples of how Finland is taking the digital transformation, what are the actions that they are doing, and how they are supporting these SMEs. So again, if you're interested to know a bit more about this, I very much encourage you to go to the link that I have on my presentation. Next slide. And well, from here, I wanted to leave it here in case you have any questions, because I know that I speak a lot and sometimes it can be overwhelming. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Marta, thank you very much for the presentation. Very succinct, but otherwise meaningful, a lot of information. Some of them, I think, new for us. So let's now see if we have any question from the people who are here in the meeting. You can write it in the chat if you want, and we can take it from there. If not, you can unmute yourself, present yourself, and address the question very, very shortly. So let's see if there is somebody with courage.
I think Milan had his hand up.
Okay, Milan, please, if you have a question.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Marta, for this excellent presentation. It is the thing that gives confidence that the European Commission is taking care about the current status of the things in the world. And I believe, and I will stress that in my discussion later, that Europe is the best alternative. So I'm happy to see all these initiatives, but I don't have any concrete question right now, except that maybe this entire work requires a lot of coordination with the other parts of the European Commission and bodies within it. So how do you go about it? Because that's kind of a complicated process.
Yeah, well, it is a big challenge to have coordination between the different Commission services, but taking into account that the guidelines from our president and the European Commission, it was very clear that needs to go to these three pillars: digital, green, and resilience. I think that all of us, from DG Com to DG Connect, from DG Clima, work in one single voice, which is like trying to achieve these three main pillars and trying to support our internal market, our businesses, and at the end of all, our SMEs, because these are the ones that has been affected the most during the pandemic. We have seen with the results that we received from the Chief Economist Unit, that the percentage of businesses debt, specifically for SMEs, is extremely high. So for us, the collaboration and coordination between the different Commission services is very straightforward, because we have these three main goals that need to take into place. So yes.
Okay, I see that Sebastiano also has a hand raised. So Sebastiano, please.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you, Marta, for the very instructive presentation. I just have a curiosity, because you mentioned that you kind of decided to start with 4 sectors because these sectors are more in need at the moment of support, etc. So that was tourism, construction, energy intensive, and mobility. And I was curious, why did you pick construction? Because the other 3 I totally understand. I would be 100% in agreement. But for construction, I mean, what we hear now is that the prices of real estate is going super high. And secondly, that during the pandemic, many people had a lot of disposable income they couldn't spend in travels or dinners. And so there was a lot of investment in house renovations. So I at least anecdotally, I know that construction sector companies are not in a bad shape right now, but you may have other data to certainly justify your decision.
No, actually, Sebastiano, this question is a very good question. It's very timely, and this was with different colleagues. To be honest with you, we had the same question as you had. One thing is construction can be like, as we know, perhaps in the case of Brussels, we know that the prices of the houses are extremely high, and there are a huge demand of houses, but there is a huge demand of social housing. And there are many issues on social housing, and is one of the biggest issues for young generations to have access to housing, a proper housing, and to have the right to have a house. So the European Commission, there has been two let's say, actions that now are being very, very hot, if I might say. The first one is the social housing initiative that is trying to support all EU member states to make, and we called it also the renovation wave. So we are trying to support on promoting the renovation of buildings or houses that are not being used, that are used mainly for speculation, and young generations cannot have access to it. And this is an issue because these young generations tend to live with their parents because they cannot afford houses. There is kind of a vicious loop on there. Yeah. So we have the renovation wave. And second, we have the Bauhaus, which is like trying to replicate the movement of Bauhaus that took into place in the 70s, but now into this, to sustainability of buildings, because the construction sector is one of the sectors that are less, let me tell you, environmentally friendly. So yeah, this also needs to be aligned with the green transition, and this transformation of the construction sector is very much needed. And also we have seen with our data that the digitalization of the construction sector is very, very much lagging behind. So this is a sector that we, with the, I mean, our cabinets, they decided that we need to push forward.
Okay, thanks.
You're
obviously, I think we all here would like to see also, you know, something very strategic on the digital sector, because yeah, as you show in your slide, it's one of the few or the only one which has been growing despite the crisis. And sometimes you know, you have to invest not only where you're weak, but also where you are strong, because that's where your future is. But I'm sure you have reflected on that a lot.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you something else. So with all member states on the recovery plan, they need to give us a strategy on how they want to move forward. It's not only a matter of receiving money in order to recover, but how is this money going to be implemented in order to support the recovery. And just for you to know that 20% of the budget that every member state needs to put on the recovery plan needs to be focused on digital. So as you can see, Sebastiano, the digital action, or it is very much on our core. We will not leave behind. And as you rightly pointed, now that we have seen that the digital transition is very important for our economy, we cannot leave it behind. So that's why these 20% of the budget for the recovery phase for all EU member states need to be strictly focused to digital.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Marta. We have one more question to take. I see the hand here raised by Salvis. This is the last question for Marta. I know that she has to leave us. She has other engagement. So Salvis, please.
Yes, thank you, Andrei. And thank you, Marta, for the presentation. And I like it very much. And especially you mentioned that clusters and cluster managers are like agents of change, right? And as we know, to make this shift, to make this transition, some money is needed for that. Even in the first phase, when maybe nobody is trusting what you really are doing. And partly you answered my question with RRF fund, which every European Union country has some money for that. But there are also some international programs. And maybe you have some practical suggestion for cluster organizations like we are here today. So what to do very practical, not to fight country to country with applications. There is fighting consortium to consortium, and yeah, maybe some practical suggestions what to do, how to manage this agent of change situation.
I would say, thank you, Salvis. I would say that one of the things we truly believe in, specifically we believe in my unit, in the unit of Industrial Forum Alliances and Clusters, is the network. So to create alliances. It's not only a matter of fighting between one cluster, for instance, organizations and another, but creating connections and alliances between one to another. And actually, for instance, I can put you an example of one of the tiny projects, because this is very tiny, is very, very limited capacity that I have, but I created inside the cluster team, is a program that is specifically focused for the recovery phase and is for digitalization, and is to support the creation of alliances between different sizes of business. and also with the different levels of development. So, for instance, support traditional SMEs to adopt digital technologies, and by adopting digital technologies, the more, let's say, tech-savvy SMEs give support or give the knowledge to these traditionals. And these are taking place under the cluster umbrella. So if I explain you this project, that now the two winning, let's say, partnerships of cluster organizations will start on September, what we have created is like a platform where on one side, the traditional SMEs get this knowledge. So this means that they can become more competitive, they adopt advanced technologies, they get the understanding of the value added of adopting these technologies, because sometimes SMEs do not understand that making this investment on the long run will give to them higher benefits. And on the other side, these tech-savvy SMEs, these SMEs that has born digital, the very top startups, they get new clients with these traditional SMEs, which means that they will not go somewhere else in China, in the US, or somewhere else, but they will remain at home. And these activities and these alliances are created inside with the cooperation of these different cluster organizations, because the cluster organization focused on ICT in Estonia might be very different than a cluster organization in Greece. So the cooperation and co-creation between these different areas, regions in Europe, and with different sizes and characteristics of SMEs, this is the way we truly believe is the way to move forward. I don't know if I replied to your question, Salvis.
Thank you very much. It's helpful.
Okay, thank you, Marta, for your time, for being here with us. I also had some questions, just in case we don't find the courageous people, but here we are. We had the questions from the audience. I think they were very interesting. So a final thank you from our side to Marta for her presence. We hope to see you in our future events as well. And we want to extend the cooperation between your unit in the European Commission and the 3B ICT Network. I think we can contribute in many ways to your work, so please count on us for this.
Sure. Thank you so much.
We wish you all the best, Marta, and thank you once again for the time you allocated for our event. We move now to the second part of our event, and I quickly pass the virtual microphone to Filip Stojanovic. Filip, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you for the introduction you made, the kind introduction of myself. And I do believe I'm a friend of the network and a partner. So it's a pleasure to be here today. Welcome, everybody. I know a lot of the participants that are there, but hopefully I'll meet new people. Just quickly to introduce the panel, as some of them you've seen already. I'll start with Sebastiano Tofaletti. He's the Secretary General of European Digital SME Alliance. Welcome. Salvis Roga, board member of Green Tech Cluster. You've seen him as well. Tatiana Vucic, she's the Executive Director of BIT Alliance in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Milan Šalaja, Executive Director of Vojvodina ICT Cluster from Serbia. And last but not least, Anita Nikova, Executive Director of MASIT from North Macedonia. Thank you for being with us today, dear friends. I haven't seen you in a while, so it was my pleasure to see you. Today, this is the first event, first regional event we want to put together, and hopefully it will be a ongoing series. We want this to be an open and honest discussion, authentic discussion, not presentations about some topics that we've put together. We will follow some questions and we would like it to be a discussion. So please make sure if you have questions or suggestions, put them in the chat and I will try to integrate them into the conversation as we go along. So to begin with, I would like each of you to just say a minute or two about yourselves, your organization, and how do we link to each other. I think that's a good beginning. And since I started with Sebastiano, now I'll start with Anita backwards, if you don't mind.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Philip, for the kind introductions, and thank you, Andrei, for the whole setting of the scene before.
Thank you, Pros. Yeah, we'll come back to Anita. Tatiana, can you do a quick introduction?
Of course. So quick means like 5 sentences.
Sure.
Okay. So BIT Alliance is actually the greatest IT association in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the only one which actually captures all the IT companies from all over the country. Including all the cities. We have more than 100 alliances, and that is why I greet a lot what Marta said, that we need actually the agents of change, and that is how we actually connected into one IT ecosystem, which now has 50 plus greatest IT companies of all Bosnia and Herzegovina. The strategic document that we signed in March 2019 was actually the very first strategic document that IT industry of Bosnia and Herzegovina made itself of the development of IT industry in the next years. And actually what we focus on is the triple helix model on which we are built. So we focus on education and education system. So enablement of different IT educational paths that were never existing before that, or that are much more developed than they are right now. The second one is, of course, the government and the relationships with legacy matters in the country. So framing the legal things, laws, bylaws, etc. And the third one is actually the building of the industry itself. And when I say industry, I mean also the regionalization and internationalization of BIT Alliance, as the IT industry is the only industry with which Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I also think the region can actually be compared with other very developed countries. So we are very, like, from BIT Alliance and from Bosnia and Herzegovina, we are very delighted to have such an alliance because in that matters we are actually shaping our better economic prosperity and everything else with respect to the overall development of the country. And I'm very glad to be here today and connected with all of you in 3B ICT cluster, as this cluster is really a great platform to build upon our new digital era, the regional one and the European one, as was said before this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. We'll come back to Anita now. Everything's, she's back. Please, Anita.
Okay, I'm very sorry. I'm very happy to be here today together with everybody. Thank you very much, Philip, for hosting the panel. And thank you very much, Andrei, first of all, for setting the scene beforehand. Masit is ICT Chamber of Commerce in Macedonia and is one of the founders of 3B ICT Network. Being that, I'm very happy to be part of today's event and looking forward to contribute to the discussion as much as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. We'll go to Milan.
Yes, hi, my name is Milan Šulaj. I'm CEO of Vojvodina ICT Cluster, one of the leading clusters in IT in Serbia, also co-founders of the 3B ICT. My pleasure to be here today. I'm looking forward to discuss the topics of the European IT development and how we can cooperate and together make it stronger and better for all of us and for the societies that we work for. Thank you.
Thank you, Milan. Salvis?
Yes, hi once again. So thank you, Philip. My name is Salvis, as Philip mentioned already, and I'm representing Green Tech Cluster from Latvia. So we are not a typical IT cluster organization, but we are a cross-sectoral organization, cluster organization, covering the green technology field, including ICT, or as we name it today, not anymore IT or ICT, but digitalization sector, I would say. And yeah, this is what we are doing, and we are a friend of or member of 3B ICT Network almost 4 years, I think, and we are very happy about that. And to be here as part of the event today, it's thanks to the 3B ICT Network. So together we can do a lot of things. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Last but not least, Sebastiano, and 3B ICT is a member of the Digital SME Alliance. So we're very happy to have Sebastiano today from Brussels. Sebastiano.
Yes, well, very nice to be here with you, with everyone. It's been really a long time since we don't meet physically. Some of you, I must say, I've never met, but many of you, those who are on the screen, those who are behind, we personally met physically in some events, especially in the region. And some of you also travel to Brussels and meet us from time to time. So as you said, Philip, 3B ICT Network is a member of, an associate member of the Digital SME Alliance. So through this relationship, we actually engage with all the different clusters in different activities, and we are very happy about that, by the way. Let me just say that the Alliance is now the largest network for IT SMEs, so digital SMEs in Europe. We were counting until very recently, we were stuck with the figure of 20,000 companies, but now we recalculated due to new members and so on, better calculations, and we say we have at least 45,000 companies in the continent, and that's indeed very good. I'm only very happy to be here. Looking forward to your discussion and to your moderation, Philip.
Thank you, Sebastiano. So since I'm in Central Asia, hopefully we can integrate Central Asia with you guys as well.
Yes, indeed.
All right, let me go to the questions. So we set up these questions again as a discussion point. I think I'll pick people to reply and say their opinions about these things. We're very open to questions from each other or the participants as well. So the first topic is about COVID. How has the IT sector coped with the crisis, the COVID crisis within each of the countries? What did the industries in your countries focus on mostly in the COVID crisis? And what role does cluster organization play in this difficult period? So basically, let's see what happened this year and a half and how we coped from our different angles from the different countries. And then maybe at the end, Sebastiano, you can say like from Europe, from Brussels standpoint, what happened. Let's start with Milan, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Philip. Well, let me just briefly share my screen. Just find, yeah, here it is. Can you see this graph?
Yes.
Okay, so this graph shows what happened in 2020 compared to 2019 in Serbia, and this pertains only to the export of the IT services from Serbia. And you can see that this was really volatile year for IT in Serbia. We had beginning of the year better than ever. We have recorded 113 million exports in January to 1st February, which was the best month ever. Then the COVID hit the beginning of March, and things went down very quickly. Immediately after breaking of pandemic, we have created a survey among not just our members, but IT companies throughout Serbia to see how they feel about the situation, what are the immediate obstacles, etc. So we got plenty of very interesting data about stopped projects being cancelled or put on hold. But very soon, suddenly, you can see in June, a little peak, there were new clients that were COVID hit and were trying to fix the problems they had with digital technologies. I think that regarding the Serbia, COVID has made a lot for digitalization or digital transformation. Unfortunately, we had to have a COVID to make people see the benefits of digital technologies in certain areas. But by the end of the year, things started to pick up, and we ended December and the year with a very high rise of the export of the IT services. During this time, companies in Serbia, IT companies in Serbia, had maintained their staff. Nobody was fired, nobody was let go. some of the companies even hired more. And I was curious about this December last year to see if this is consequence of maybe some related payments or whatever happens at the end of the year financially and means of accounting. But January of this year continued this growth, and right now the companies in Serbia have more to work than ever before, which means that the IT sector that rides on the wave of the global demand is back on with a vengeance, and things are looking really great now.
So
but this
recovery was quite quick.
Yes, absolutely. But this is only about IT exports from Serbia. Internal digitalization, digital transformation is also another topic, but we can cover it later.
Sure. Anita, how about in Skopje?
Well, as the reflection of Marta started and then the continuation of that trend continued with Milan, I'm going to say a few numbers on my own as well. So the 2020 for the ICT sector was very nice indeed. The whole number of the registered companies in the ICT sector was risen in 8%. And in actual terms, it is around 200 more companies on the market. We had 1,000 more people employed in the sector, again 8% of the increase of the employment in comparison to 2019. And we had 12% of total revenues rise in the 2020 in comparison with 2018. What we also have been doing in the past, let's say, year and a half, but primarily in the first half of 2020, was really helping other sectors to bridge closer and start utilizing more the ICT tools and services that are actually provided by ICT companies in our country. Many of the ICT companies in Macedonia started offering their tools, subscriptions, licenses, and everything else for free, so that the companies from other sectors were able to be using them, starting to use them as lightly as possible, as freely as possible, and this was really being additionally supported by some USAID project and grant that we had going onward here, by not only helping companies to get acquainted with the ICT tools, but also helping them make individual digitalization strategies of what exactly they need based on their business, everyday business. We also help them with co-financing to purchase some of these tools. So this was really helpful for many companies from the agri sector. We had even from the tourism sector companies that wanted to go digital and really utilize some of the tools that we provided. Last but not least, we also help the government to construct their measures so that they can really help bridge this pandemic more easily for the companies themselves. The government was constantly constructing measures, different kind of measures related to salaries, related to bank credits, and so on, so that really these aspects go more smoothly for the companies. But definitely, to end with the beginning notification, is that this was really a leapfrog for the ICT sector in North Macedonia when it comes to raising awareness and utilization of the ICT tools.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Tatiana, what about Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Well, pretty much similar, as we're always following and looking up to Serbia mainly. But also Macedonian and all other ex-Yugoslavian countries. IT industry actually, and COVID-19 was maybe the best thing that happened for industry, if I may be very tough on that, because the industry really saw its best fruits during the COVID crisis. The digital era actually fastened much more than we expected. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, what we planned in terms of digital transformation and digitalization of e-government, of institutions, of educational institutions, educational system, health system, fintech system, etc. What we planned in 10 years actually happened in this 1 year, because we had no choice. And that is the best possible thing to do to one nation or the whole country. When you are out of choice, you must do what you need to do in order to survive. And the only survival for many industries was to become digital if they were not before. Not to mention these operational things within IT industry, that we had more online conferences, events, and everything more than ever before. Like in 10 years time, we didn't have so many events. And the great thing was that, for example, I could be at one place in one day, and all other IT directors in one day, you could be anywhere in the world. So that was a beauty of COVID. Of course, we love more to speak to each other face to face. So I hope this regional event will take place face to face, as we discussed before, in the next months. With respect to the numbers and information with respect to number of people entering into industry, profits, exports, etc., pretty much the same thing as in Serbia. It was a shock in March and maybe these first 6 months, but then it was a jump, a huge jump, probably because, we say our surveys show that it's probably because some additional clients, some clients that were before there for IT companies were actually freezed. And most of the people and most of the companies for which our companies in IT industry are working actually frozen for a while all the next steps. And therefore, when they unfrozen, then everything just bloomed. So we had about 20 to 25% increase in number of people entering into industry. So it didn't stop. The number of people went higher and higher. With respect to profit and exports, it's around those 30%, which was before COVID-19, so in 2019. And everything went upwards with respect to mostly outsourcing industry, because in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the characteristic of the industry is that we are now at about 80 to 85% of outsource, as we are speaking of structure of the industry. And then you have only 15 to at most 20% of these companies that we call local solution providers, which actually work for local government institutions, etc. The main point with respect to COVID in Bosnia and Herzegovina was that most of the companies that were let's say not connected well enough, or that were not part of BIT Alliance, actually jumped into BIT Alliance as the secure place, so that they're not alone in the very huge crisis and apocalyptic crisis, I would say. This is the first thing. And the second great thing is that they actually got to each other more. And now they're doing some conglomeration projects or some joint projects or joint ventures or whatever, which was never done before. And the third one is that we actually finally realized, after so many surveys, researches, and everything, that actually the IT industry is the turning economic point for the whole Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that is the most prospective industry. And we called it, for the very first time in history of Bosnia and Herzegovina, strategic industry of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the one which actually makes the economic prosperity for the future. So thank you, COVID. Thanks for COVID in those development things in terms of economy, and not only digital and IT sector, but the whole economy.
Thank you, Tatiana. So far for the sector has been quite positive. Let's see what happened in Latvia, and then Sebastiano can tell us from Brussels a bit.
Yes, thank you, Philip. In Latvia, everything is very good. So, I agree what my colleagues said, and but in the same time, what we saw is that the IT companies, which are also all numbers are growing in Latvia. Sure, I think it's in every country, but in the same time, we saw empty offices. So with this small example, we see that, for example, real estate business went down, and a lot of business sectors went down, and this is a thing what we tried to do during the last almost 2 years, and we are continuing to do it, helping the whole business ecosystem. Our members are mostly manufacturing companies, and they need these ICT tools, of course, digitalization tools, and it's nice that IT companies are booming. There is lack of workforce. They are overpaid in a lot of cases. So, but it's like I see it like a bubble, and in someday, if we will not do this, use this smart approach to optimize the whole ecosystem, the whole business environment, there will be a problem. And today we see that, and there we see that we are too slow. I like what Marta explained us with the vision, with some subsidies and programs, but we are too slow. And if we will not speed up, we will have a problem with reskilling, with supporting manufacturing sectors. There is already a problem with materials, with components. So we are trying to be agents of change and help the whole ecosystem using the time that IT companies are in a good level. So, but somehow to stabilize this. So this is what in Latvia is happening. So we are doing good, but it's not perfect.
I would like to say that we've been discussing this for a very long time. I think agents of change, you have been agents of change in general. Okay, we use the terminology now as a strategic one, but it's been there before. But we all discussed about more traditional sectors. The more traditional sectors, first, they're afraid of change and the complexity of IT. I think this is the role of the clusters. One of the roles of the clusters is to utilize the pandemic times and whatever happens next, which is one of the next questions, is how do you educate more and more of the traditional sectors to get into the digitalization kind of area. So this is maybe for another time, but I think you're right. I think IT can pull the whole economic ecosystems in the different countries and cross countries forward. Sebastiano, please.
Yes, thank you, Philip. Well, first of all, it's very interesting to hear the perspective from the different countries, which I see is reassuring that they have more or less the same figures. What we have as a collection of such figures at the EU level, as you've also seen from Marta's presentation, the ICT sector has been the only one that has essentially be anti-cyclic during the crisis, so be able to grow compared to the previous years despite the overall situation. So we have an overall, some say about plus 4% overall in a situation where the overall GDP had gone down. But even in such relatively positive situation, we have seen, of course, the demand for ICT increasing, and the awareness, especially from people and businesses, increasing, and that's a positive aspect. The element which is confirmed to be the most important, as some of you heard Anita, but also Salvis and others mentioned the fact that it was the ICT for other sectors. And this is where we really have the great demand happening, and where our sector is really driving the others. Now, one negative remark what has happened during the crisis is the fact that because there is a general economic situation which is uncertain, the investments by companies in other sectors in their ICT have been rather short-termist. What I mean there is that, okay, there has been some, of course, a lot of people buying licenses or subscriptions for certain software or products, but the investment into the long-term projects, the long-term investment, the more disruptive ones, let me say, have gone down instead of going up. So overall the climate is very positive, but we are already seeing that now that we are looking at the end of the tunnel, so to say. There is the numbers show already that there is growth also in the demand, because what we need to really activate is the long-term investments, not just the short-term ideas, because that's where our companies, we believe, can really bring an added value. Okay, because
do you think one of the things that need to be done by the clusters and actually the companies themselves is the education part, educating what these solutions, what these services will do. Investment is one thing, sure. Payment is another thing. You're asking somebody to pay from from tourism or something traditional like that. If they don't understand really how they will benefit, I think it's very difficult for them to open up. Sure, the COVID can push them forward in e-commerce or something like this. But I think this education part has always been a thing for me, that you as change people, you should be educating everybody else, all the other sectors. And we discussed this before, is we participate in IT conferences, which we meet each other and hopefully we can collaborate. But I think IT clusters should be in agriculture events or apparel events, etc., etc. So to educate the other sectors and bring them into the mix.
Let me tell you this, Philip. I have the impression that this thing is happening. Of course, all our clusters, I think we all know that we have this role to play, okay? But not only that, not only we are doing that, but what I see more and more, at least from our perspective, we see more and more organizations, clusters, associations, industry organizations from other sectors who turn to us and to our members in the different countries, say, okay, you tell us how to do it. Because now we are aware that we need to do something with this ICT, and you tell us, why do they call us? Why do they look at organizations at national level, clusters like us? Because all of these different sectors, they know that they have the choice of taking the technology from the big multinational companies, okay? But they are becoming suspicious because they are not stupid. They understand these are also strategic, these are very strategic choices, okay? And so they prefer sometimes to have the technology offered by a local company because by choosing their suppliers, they can control the supply chain, they control the technologies. There are issues with cybersecurity, with cloud, with the issues with data protection. We have seen, big platforms competing a little bit unfairly, even with the traders which were using their own services. And so, companies nowadays, SMEs, especially in the different sectors, I would say are not stupid. They understand that this is not just choosing a supplier. This is a very strategic choice. And that's where I think not only our clusters have an important role to play, our companies, and in being there. And really, as you said, we have to go and talk to to the agriculture and to all the other sectors, because they want us. We are really wanted everywhere. And this is the message from my point of view.
Sure. Anybody want to add anything?
Yes, I would.
Milan?
Okay.
Okay. Salvis and then Milan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very short. So I absolutely agree with you, Sebastiano and Philip told that it's a cross-sectoral era at the moment. It's not anymore about one sector, but about education, I would split in two parts. The one thing is a technical education or technical trainings, so technical skills to give for people. And this is what I mean. This is what I think is not a cluster thing. So this is a technical thing for companies to do this education. But another thing is a mindset, change of mindset. That people can do other things. They can be reskilled. They think about productivity. They think about themselves. So, and the mindset changing is the cluster stuff. So just a short thing
Yes.
to add.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Milan?
thank you. Yeah, Sebastiano has opened the door to a very interesting topic. And Salvis, I agree with you. There are two levels of education, but I think that clusters have the role in all of them. So with the companies, at least in Serbia, education system is mostly state-owned, and we do a lot of lobbying on behalf of the companies, and not just companies, but longer-term vision that we have about what are the needs of education, not just for IT sector, but for other sectors to be able to develop the digital skills to absorb IT solutions and services. On the other hand, you are absolutely right about those two levels, but clusters as organizations that gather players that from at least three areas within the helix, business, education, and public service, have their place and their say in creating these policies that will lead us towards solution. I think that from all of the discussion here, we can definitely deduce that things are moving forward very fast for IT, but also that IT is coming into the focus of the other industries because of the things that it can provide. And for example, in the work that we did in Serbia on the development of the smart specialization for Serbia for us, we have detected and accepted actually in our work that the IT sector is not just a strong and profitable sector as vertical, but also has these qualities, horizontal qualities that can help all of the other sectors. But the topic that Sebastiano has opened a little bit is something that is bothering me for a long time now. I mean, we all live and our clusters work in the age of new technologies that actually took the world by storm. We already kind of forgetting that. But I must say that I'm extremely disappointed with the miserable failure of global tech industry to deliver on their promise. So we remember that promise of providing technology custom-made for the user with the goal of bringing betterment to our lives. And I'm delusioned completely as I watched that promise being turned on its head, as we all ended as just sacks of data to be delivered to the highest bidder. Now I'm talking about the IT for the common people, IT for the people who need digital skills to find their way to digital world that is becoming our reality more and more. So side effect of such approach is narrow-minded course, clearly uncovered in the movie Social Dilemma. If you have seen it, if you didn't, I definitely recommend it. That shows that the race for profits based on not only knowing your users, but also ever so slightly nudging them toward this or that market niche also changes their behavior, changes who they are, with the side effect of promoting polarization across the societies. And it is true. I mean, big tech companies, especially in social media, have this power, and we've seen it in recent years to shape public opinion and contribute to polarization. Now, technology was supposed to make our lives better by serving us, but we ended slaves to technology in many cases, and Silicon Valley promise of technology making our lives better was implemented inside out as big tech-based decision today onto every aspect of our life, from education to healthcare, which opens the question, and think about it, if Googles and Apples of this world are going to decide everything for us, what happens with political system? What happens with civic participation in shaping our own future? Where is our say? And now there is another global player, of course, we all know, it's China. We use technology in a similarly sinister and channel toward preservation of political might internally, but also toward global expansion. However, and here's my point, we also have Europe. The wonderful European diversity coupled with strong civic orientation, which can and should offer another option. And Europe proved to have already different view on, for example, data privacy and tax evasion policies. And Europe has an extraordinary public funds that could and should be used to show the world that there is another way. So we need to preserve these European values and join forces in making the difference. That is precisely why 3B ICT Network was established for member, to draw in players from all parts of the helix: business, education, public administration, civil society, around projects and activities that one way or the other bring us a step closer to digital Europe. That's what I say our vision is. Not just profit-oriented, not centralistic, but human-oriented. And I think that so-called old continent is the place where change is possible. So there are many problems.
If I may add, Milan,
discuss them. Sure.
One is the European role globally, which obviously I agree with, and again, Central Asia, we're waiting for you. But also integration within. I didn't want to bring this up with Marta or anything. It's just a topic that we've been discussing for a long time. Is integration of non-member EU countries, partnership countries, integration of the whole continent within what you're discussing. So one is obviously the global example and global outreach that Europe can do in this, to these global leaders right now. But it's also integration within our continent that needs to be done, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I really consider East Europe, West Europe, Northern Europe, and South Europe as geographical coordinates. I really hate when I see analysis that go Western developed Europe and Eastern outsourcing continent. So I really hate that, because at least in IT, we can really try to set the level playing field for everybody to come up with, because in IT, you need your brains and some little bit of equipment. And as one American said, I mean, talents are born equally around the world, but opportunities are not. So what we need to do is to create opportunities here in Europe.
Absolutely, and this is what I think also this alliances idea should be, and this is what 3B ICT is that you're putting different regions together. We need to attract Western partners as well. We need to educate ourselves. I don't think they know as much about Eastern Europe as they know about India. So I think that's something to be discussed. You remember Milan and I went to Sweden, Norway, and Denmark a long time ago. Yeah, even though probably in Sweden, every fifth person is from ex-Yugoslavia, they had no idea about anything, honestly, unfortunately. The opportunities are there. We just need to think about this alliance opportunity a bit more, build on 3B ICT and expand a bit, and hopefully with Sebastiano and obviously his European outreach. I think you wanted to say something, Sebastiano. Sorry.
Yeah, just one thing, Sebastiano. Sorry. I think that the time is right to come up with this initiative, because Europe is, as we heard from Marta's presentation, is focusing on things. Among the other things on digitalization, and networks like by ICT and clusters as agents of change have to react quickly, and we should try to form this consortia as soon as possible and try to show the way, not to fall into the same trap as the Far East or Far West have done.
Yeah, I was just playing with the thumbs up to give you.
Oh, okay, all right.
To give you a like to Milan. I've seen other people in the panel were asking for the floor. I didn't speak so much until now, so maybe Philip.
Yeah, I think Christina told me George wanted to speak, but I don't see which George.
Yes, George Gichev, and I lowered my hand because it became a meeting between you two, and since you know each other, and maybe I know them because I'm from this part of Europe, it's not correct and it's not fair. I mean, this is not discussion, as I was informed, about how is the situation in Macedonia and Serbia, etc., but how what happened in COVID and what should be done. And I heard a lot of good analysis and things, and I will repeat them. Service was real. It is balloon, and it is the raise of ICT in 2019 to 20 will be temporary. What is happening and what was really problem was real sector. And nobody tackles that because, and then the clusters going to real sector, offering them something is seen like it's seen. Somebody's profit oriented and they want to take us money and everybody was pulling the plug. Second thing, actually my third thing was told by Philip about the education. I lost Marta to tell her, okay, green and digitalization is on agenda 3 or 4 years almost. But where is education? Where is awareness to our clients, potential clients? We cannot educate our clients because we will have conflict of interest. So European Union is not coming with any idea and any solution how we do it. Unfortunately, I'm in deep in that because I was writing, I was part of co-author of our national ICT strategy. And we've seen that there is no such a thing except on academic level. So we have to tackle this awareness and education in our other sectors, not in IT, in government, etc. What we were trying, Philip, 30 years, is that we are convincing our clients that they will raise the production, they will raise, but so far everybody sees IT as an expense, not as an investment. So we have to change that mind scope.
Excellent.
Agents of change, George. Agents of change. Thank you, George.
You know that I don't want to talk too much. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, George.
Bye.
Can I say something about this?
You.
Yeah, well,
yes, and then Tatiana needs to speak.
Okay. Well, one way of changing things is through European projects. Right now, we have, for example, one European project. It's called Puzzle, and the goal of this project is to create a marketplace in the area of cybersecurity, where small and medium and micro enterprises can go and quickly analyze their cybersecurity threats and situation, get advice, and download solutions for their problems. So this kind of projects that solve particular needs of the small companies from other sectors, not just IT, are the way to go, because this is how you can use European funds and expertise within the network to promote solutions to the small and medium enterprises in other sectors and to teach them about the risks they're facing and how to overcome them. So I wouldn't expect too much of the governments. I don't speak for all of the governments, but just my experience so far. But I think that they need to be pushed and they need to be showed how to do it. And if possible, let's do it ourselves so they can join in. And we had a lot of examples of government taking over the good things that we had done to continue them. Sorry, I will stop there.
Should I speak now? Yes. Well, George, for George, maybe you're too harsh. We defined the topic as regional talks. So whatever we talk now and exchange in between others is great. Because we are talking about that very openly. This was the very first question from Philip with respect to how our countries reacted to COVID. They reacted greatly. So it could be a bubble, but then we come to this, what Sebastiano really greatly called long-term investments. What are our long-term plans? What are long-term investments? And then we come to your conclusion that maybe it is a bubble now for 1 year, for 2 or 3 years, but then we have all those things which also Milan called upon, and those are smart cities, specialization, and all those smart digitalization process, cybersecurity, and all other areas. I will go back to what I wanted to say before while I was raising the head, and it connects to the discussion now. It's about this digitalization and digital transformation process, where IT industry is actually the agent of change, as we discussed, is actually the fuel for how our cars of industry can go. What does that mean? with respect to Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I believe it's the very same situation in most of the countries, is that this digitalization process in traditional industries, I mean now, and manufacturing industries, as Salvis called upon as well, the same things are happening. There are too many international organizations who are doing the same thing. Let's digitalize SMEs, so small and medium enterprises. Let's do that. So when we start to actually create the events of digitalization, where we want to integrate the IT industry with traditional sectors, what happens? What is digitalization for transitional sectors? I will tell you, in 90% of cases in Bosnia and Herzegovina, digitalization means having a website. This is very boring for all of us. This means digitalization for traditional sectors. This means that not only the education upon which we actually were discussing here, but in the end comes the mindset change, what Salvis recalled, but it's the first of all raising awareness. What digitalization means, because not many people know what really digitalization means. While we educate them what does it mean, then they can think of whether they want it or not. So we are in a very backstage of the real stage where we want to go. And then goes this, what Salvis says, this is the end of the process, the mindset change. When we think, not we from IT industry, but rather people from traditional industries, when they start to think that they really need their processes digitalized, not their websites raised and their Facebook and LinkedIn profiles or whatever profiles raised, not. That is not the digitalization, that is only the PR or whatever digital marketing, but not the digitalization process of their processes, manufacturing processes, etc. So when we think about that, what I can say is that IT industry is more than ready and more than ever before to get into the problem together with the traditional industries, which was not the case before. Before, the IT industry was not tackling upon those things. Before, IT industry in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I believe also in the majority of the region, was tackling upon the issues of outsourcing. So let's work for Google. Let's work for those world change makers, as Milan defined, and those who are changing the whole history of the mankind. But in the end, and I will stop with that, in the end, it happened now during the COVID that they got this feeling that they want to help other industries. So the IT sector wants to help the other IT industries and be a fuel for this motorbike, car, plane, whatever you call that, of digitalization of the whole economy.
Hi, thanks, guys. Sorry, my computer crashed, so I'm trying to get back in and do everything.
Speaking of digitalization,
some of it.
I said speaking of digitalization, your computer crashed.
Tatiana's end of Tatiana's speech.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Philip, maybe I can quickly comment, as you seem to be.
Sebastiano, we can hear you, and we can.
Let me just say something until
I'm trying to man back very soon. So Sebastiano, please go ahead.
Yes. No. Well, okay. First of all, I wanted to react to what Tatiana said, because I'm glad you picked on these long-term investments, because I think we need also to sometimes agree on what we mean by digitalization, okay? Because there are, as you said, most of the companies or some of the companies think they are happy when they have a website, or when they have, I don't know, a Facebook business account, or they sell on Amazon. And this is definitely, we've been saying this for many times, this is definitely not digitalization. This is maybe a very first step into digitalization. So for us, we like the definition which was given by Gartner, Digitalization is the process of rethinking a company's business model in order to generate values through technology. So you see, I would say, even to Tatiana, it goes even beyond what you just said, which is, digitalizing the processes. It goes into rethinking the business model, because when you rethink the business model, maybe you don't sell any longer, but you only sell services, for instance, on the same product that you were manufacturing and selling before. So there is, a long-term innovation process to go through, and we, as of course cluster representatives, have a role to play in explaining this, because otherwise there is a lot of misunderstandings. But I also want to go back to the other discussion, which was, is it a bubble or not? Because I find it a very interesting topic, and I was curious to hear the opinions of the other colleagues in the panel, because yeah, I mean, sometimes, yes, it looks like a panel. I agree with Salvis or with George. When you see the salaries, when I go to Cluj and I see that a young software developer makes 3,000 euros and the taxi driver has to make it with 400 euros per month. Andre, correct me if I'm putting wrong figures there. Obviously, I may think it's a bubble, but on the other hand, look what happens on the stock exchange. Look, with the Google, with the GAFAM, their value. I mean, they never went down. They kept going up and up. And why? Because people understand that this is where investors understand that this is where we are creating the value. I mean, it's in ICT, and there is nothing you can do about it. If I ask you who's going to build the car of the future, you won't tell me Mercedes or BMW. You probably tell me, I don't know, Facebook, Apple, or, now we have Tesla, but, it's probably going to be a software company that is going to do the car of the future, not a mechanical company, not a car industry. And this is the point, that, the value is going into ICT. So my take is that it is not a bubble. That if you think it's a bubble, I think we are doing a mistake. It may be good or it may be not good, but I think we have to realize that we can only expect this to go higher and higher. I don't think it will go down. But at least this is my feeling, and I'm curious also to hear the opinions from the other people, because I may be totally wrong.
Sebastiano, I would just add to what you said. If that is a bubble, when it blows, then we are in a huger bubble, and then in a huger bubble. So in that terms, it could be a bubble, just in that terms. But as you said, long-term investment, long-term planning, and long-term strategic planning in accordance with this bubble thing, in terms of like everything is exploding. So if we are smart enough, and in IT industry, not only IT, ICT industry and digital industries, very smart people are sitting there. So they will think about those things, and they are still thinking about those things. As you said, that the next car company would be ICT company, that the next whatever company would be ICT company, or at least the great incorporation of ICT sector will be inside. So in that matters, I would say that if we as the industry globally, ICT industry, put this great numbers and everything just to explode and nothing happens, I think we are so stupid. But it could not happen. As I told, and as we are all aware, it's a very smart people industry. So I believe we will not just push it to go. So with the bubble thing, I agree.
Thanks, Tatiana. You hear me now? Sorry.
Yeah, Philip.
Yeah, sorry about that. I would also agree with Sebastiano, and Anita will give you the floor afterwards. I think it's going to grow. I think we need to utilize what we have. I think the other sectors will have to do it as well. I think that's the future, like it or not. That's the future. So I think we are in the forefront as individual clusters, as a group, as an alliance, and together with Sebastiano as Europe. I think that's the future, and we need to figure out how to collaborate better with each other and move forward, and make our region a better place. Anita?
Thank you very much. I am enjoying the discussion so far. I really am, and I'm really looking and absorbing all of the discussion points you're all having. Actually, it is both a bubble, but it is also something else. It's a story, it's another cosmos that is going to be invented in front of us. It's having so many dimensions that it is going to be very difficult for all of us to be putting together everything in parallel. So we will be in front of a challenge with the new regulations all over the world, but also on the European level. We will be facing financial challenges, and companies from other sectors will be facing these questions. Is it a cost? Is it an investment? And we will be here reassuring them that this is the only right investment that they should be doing at the moment, so that they are staying competitive and they are going on the worldwide market. It is planning, forecasting, long-term strategic thinking of the activities, and many times remodeling of the business that everybody is going to have to do so that they adjust and move forward. It is the change management of the people that is going to be taking place, of the employees. Also, the academia is yet another challenge that is going to be faced with a question of what kind of workforce they should be producing in the upcoming years, so that these people are employable in the new job placements that we still do not know if and in what shape will exist. And then it is the governments. Oh my God, we are going to have so many difficulties with the governments, and making them aware, making them our friends, making them our co-pilots, so that they can really understand what the next and the new cosmos is going to be looking like. We have the public sector that is going to be sometimes against us, but sometimes all of a sudden we will be against other industries as well, especially when we are fighting for our rights. A very straightforward said, in terms of very straightforward said that we are very advanced and nobody needs to be supporting us, but at the end, at the same time, ironically, we are leading the whole economy and prosperity of the countries forward. So we will be needing the governments on board together with us. And last but not least, the citizens that are really going to be also needing our help in several shapes and forms. Some of them, the youngsters and the young population, is going to absorb everything that is going to be put in front of them very easily, as they will not be going to banks, and they will not be going to pay bills in the post offices and so on, but they will right away accept everything that the whole electronic, I would say, world is going to offer to them, so that they have more easy lives. And at the same time, we will have older citizens and older population that is not going to be very easily accepting these changes, and might even face some damages when they need to ask for the help of the young population. It's really going to be a mess, but it's a mess that we need to be helping, that we will be needing to be helping shaping it more precisely, more controllably. And I don't know, it's both a bubble, but it's also going to be a nice mess in which we will have a very important role, so that we can help. And
you mean a controlled mess?
To a certain extent, it will be uncontrolled for a very long period of time in the upcoming years as well. The social dilemma is really something that what Milan mentioned is really showing some of the aspects that are going to be put in front of us, that will be out of our control and are yet to be coming. We are still not there yet, especially in Europe.
I think this is where we go to the next question about the European outlook and role, and kind of how do we come together to influence positively the governments and the people and the companies and so on. So kind of an outlook, the European continent wise. And we'll come back to Sebastiano. Alexander from Montenegro IT Cluster wanted to say a couple words. Alexander, please.
Yeah, but it isn't directly connected with next topic. Yeah, I was thinking to say a few words about previous topic.
That's fine. Go ahead. Yeah.
If you don't mind, of course.
Please.
Alexander,
go ahead.
Yeah,
see you.
yeah. You don't see me. That's
Yeah, he's on the beach, so don't worry about him.
no. I'm in the office on 40 degrees, please, and I cannot turn on my climate, so I'm sweating. But I'm listening very carefully, and I have just few things to emphasize. I think that at this moment, most important thing for us is to recognize that we are most important industry as a horizontal industry. We are connected with all possible verticals, with agriculture, with tourism, with automotive business. All the think about digitalization is connected to the main word is that we IT business is connected as a horizontal with all possible verticals, including, of course, governmental businesses, governmental services. But it's just one vertical. We have all possible verticals available at the moment. And if we don't see that as one great possibility, not as a bubble, but as one great possibility, then I don't think that our site is quite okay. Another thing, we cannot say that Europe is is only market for us. I'm very open, and Montenegrin IT cluster is very open. For example, for Central Asia, and the meaning of the clusters must be to facilitate the approach to the members to new markets, not only geographical markets, to be completely clear, not only to geographical markets, but also to the new verticals. We have to see that all the verticals at this moment are open for us. Sorry, that was my wife. And I think that if we don't see that as a huge opportunity for us, then we are losing.
I think you better pick that up if it's your wife.
No. I'm finishing now, so I'm muting.
Okay, thank you, Alexander. I do agree. I mean, but I think that this was it was a two kind of part question. One is the European continent, how do we work better together? And then as Europe, how do we go to other different markets? So maybe come back to Sebastiano and kind of Europe's role in what next in the IT industry in the region. And then we can go, if we have time, to the global stage, or we can leave it for another time in our next regional talk. Sorry. Sebastiano?
Sorry, Philip, I couldn't get what you exactly are asking now.
So what do you think is the European role in the development of the European continent, the European Union and non-member states and partnerships?
Yeah, okay. Well, I think what we have to see now is, of course, we have this historic decision from last year, essentially, of the recovery package. You know, the 750 billion for the first time, getting some kind of common, to some degree, some common debt, and which is, you know, a historic decision. It means that I see this as a, you know, the European project is something that I don't think it's reversible, although, you know, there are bumps on the road. Now we have, you know, a very strong indication to invest in digital and green. And I think, you know, all of us should absolutely concentrate on this. The element which, in my opinion, is not clear enough yet, especially to the politicians, but also to other industries, is that ICT is fundamental, not just per se, because of the digital transition, but because with that you also do the green transition. So that ICT enables, you know, the green transition in all the industries. This is, I think, unfortunately not yet 100% clear to everyone. So we have to, you know, invest in explaining this and insisting and lobbying, because this is a fundamental battle. Yeah, so these are the elements that I see. Then we have, at least on a European scale, we have the big challenge to reform the regulations such that our companies, you know, have equal opportunities and some kind of fairness. And I'm talking here about, of course, the well-known, you know, big platforms, the GAFAM, which are monopolizing many markets. And unfortunately, it's not any longer, you know, the best technology wins. It's not any longer the case. Now it's a fact that you know, those who have more data and more cash, essentially they will just push anybody else out of the market. And so we need some, I think we need some kind of regulatory legislative fix for this. But besides that, the other thing that, in my opinion, we still need is, you know, a strong internal market where, you know, our companies can really, you know, thrive, as, you know, the companies do in China or in the US. They grow very well because they have a big internal market. In our case, you know, even if it's a digital sector is not material, we do have issues in getting down to, you know, a EU-wide market for many of our companies. So these are, you know, very much in a nutshell, my opinions for the situation right now. But definitely, you know, the highlight for us, for the cluster, for the associations, is to get the companies to, you know, go into the digital and green transitions, because this is where the money is going, not just the public money, but also the investment from the private sector. They are all going there. All the funds are investing on who's going to be the next, you know, technology that is able to green, to lower emissions, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where, you know, I think we have to invest.
Thank you, Sebastiano. Just on your previous comment, who will build the next car is Mate Rimac from Croatia. So check that out. We'll have that.
All right.
I know Anita wants to say something. Since we're talking about IT and green, I would like Salves to say a couple of words, because in our 3B ICT, he's the green leader. And then IT cluster from, maybe from Kragujevac, I don't know. I can't see the whole name, sorry. I think it is. Go ahead, Salves.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Just very shortly. So I'm listening also very carefully, and I think we need to separate two different things. So one is a digital business, and this is what we understand under Bitcoins and IT solutions and e-commerce. So this is a digital business. And then we have so-called traditional business: agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, mobility, etc. And in the second case, we name it digitalization or green transformation. We can use a lot of words there. We can use productivity, competitiveness increasing. So we can use different words there. So I don't think we need to push green or digital. So we need to do everything what is needed to bring these companies, or to keep these companies alive and become them stronger. So and usually, as Tatiana mentioned, it starts from processes. A lot of Latvian companies are not ready for digital tools, so they need to optimize production processes. That they need to implement some lean management things, and only then they can digitalize something. So this is our job, our task to do, to help these companies to adapt themselves for nowadays conditions, And of course, companies are calculating money, and they're calculating money today and for tomorrow, usually not day after tomorrow even. So we need to help them to earn more money. We can use greener tools, we can use solar energy, we can use everything what is available on the market. And we are these persons who know these opportunities. And we need to bring these values for companies, even this greener stuff, so lighting, ventilation, equipment change, etc. So to help them be more productive, more competitive on the market, and use all chances available on the market. And what we need to do all together to push our governments, what Anita mentioned, to push European Commission to be faster, We are living with COVID situation almost 2 years. And all this recovery and resilience funds in Latvia are not available, and I think they will be available only second half of next year. So it's too late.
So I think you made very good points, especially at the end here that I wanted to repeat. I think this is, again, there's an opportunity for best practices to be shared between the countries, what kind of services you provide, how do you do it, etc., and how to collaborate between each other. But it's also how do we collaborate better with Sebastiano and his huge organization in Europe in general? How do we make these processes a bit easier? I don't know if the EU can be quicker in their decision making, or our governments. But I think the experiences we have, whether they're bad or good, should be a priority to be shared with everybody, whether it's on a policy change thing or on a support project for our membership and so on. Anita, did you want to say something? No, I think Bane did. Bane, did you want to say something from Kragujevac? Maybe I'm wrong, sorry. Anybody want to add something? I don't think we have 5 minutes till the end, so I don't think we'll have time to talk about the global role of Europe and all of us towards other regions, parts of the world, which Central Asia is #1 on that list. So maybe for next time we can discuss that. But I really appreciate the openness of the chats that we had, the dialogue we had, the participation. We have to see the different angles. Different countries have different experiences, bad or good. I think that's all should be put on the table, and how do we collaborate and make it better in each of the countries? But how do we come together? I think the important thing is, in the 20 years that I did work in that region, is how do we come closer to our partners throughout Europe, not just from our regions. Sure, we're covering a lot of countries and we need to cover more. I think we need partnerships from all over the place. How do we become better friends with our partners in the north, in the east, in the west? Those are issues that we need to look into, and hopefully together with Sebastiano, we can figure things out. And how do we make things easier? And how do we help our countries? How do we help our governments? We got to educate them as well. I mean, we can't expect them to know these things, and things change daily. So we can't really expect them. They're politicians at the end of the day. And also, like Anita and Milan were saying, the people, some groups of people, the elderly, I'm close to being an elderly, will have issues in the future. But, c'est la vie, we have to help them. We are part of this change, and we need to figure out how to help everybody. Sebastiano, please.
No, Philip, because I see you. I'm not sure you see the hand says the raise hands. You may want to give the floor to my friend Tani Mezzini from Albania, because I think he joined. And he's going to take the floor.
Oh, sure. Dritan, please. I didn't see the raised hand, so I don't see it on my computer. Sorry, go ahead, Dritan. He's my friend as well, so.
Yeah, we're all friends.
I made sure that my wife doesn't stay around, like in case of Alex. But I'm very thank you very much, Sebastiano, Philip, and everybody there. Tatiana, Anita, Salvis, Milan, I don't know, everybody there. I'm very happy. I'll take only a minute of your time. It's first of all, congratulations for this big event. I think that 3BICT deserves this and others to come. Great job of you guys. In fact, I wanted to focus a little bit to the matter of digital transformation. And not only, you know, if we go back to digital transformation, do we as a region, you know, my question, maybe it is more, do we as a region, we have to wait and see how this bubble bursts somewhere else, and then we take measures? Or do we have to see what are the benefits of implementing it till it bursts, you know? Like, personally, I think that digital transformation is like even Sebastiano said, it's a transformation of a business model. It's a different way of thinking the business model. And I think that if our companies, if our SMEs, if our sector is capable of using technology into the business model, I think that we have taken a big step of readiness, a big step of maturity towards not only local and regional, but even European and global market. Personally, I may think that we speak too much about it, but deep inside, I feel that the future belongs to it, to our SMEs. Maybe it will be modified, maybe it won't be as shiny as it is, but the best models, the best approach will prevail. You know, so maybe many people are talking about it, many people are faking, you know, by talking about it, but what is good model out there will survive. And I think that this is what we have to look after, you know, to see what are those models that provide the results, not only, and those results could be transformed into our local market. Because personally, I believe that the mission of our association, the mission of our 3BICT, it is that how we can help the economy and the sector to overcome the hurdles by using technology. You know, rather than speaking too much that, hey, let's not do this, or because it may be a bubble or whatsoever. I don't know, that I just wanted to make it as a comment, because if we may fear, you know, we may make businesses feel afraid or fear about every attempt we do when it comes to using technology. You know, we have to encourage and to motivate them, you know, to use it as much as they could. Maybe to use the right ones, it is maybe our challenge.
Thanks, Dritan. Appreciate it. Tatiana has her hand up as well. And I think we have to close, which Andrei, you will close, correct?
Okay, only back upon what Philip raised, this integration into European Union or European Union together work and everything that we will do in the future together, as well as global things. I think that it's a very good response, the one which comes from each country. And I believe that's the very same situation in all other countries in the region, not only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, is that in the last, let's say, 3 to 4 or 5 maybe years, but 3 years now, there is a great trending of our companies actually entering the markets, not only through their clients, but also through having their setting their this, let's say, departments there, or their headquarters there, or their sites there, or whatever. But for example, most of the companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I would say majority, around 60 to 70% of the companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina have their physical offices in other countries, in United States, in Sweden, in Austria, in Germany, in Serbia, and all those Balkan countries as well. So I think that this is a great answer to your question, where we are actually going towards, as this is the response of the industry, which not only mentally wants to be connected with European Union and those global standards, but also they need they have a need to do that physically as well, which means that their intentions are very serious, and that we as a region, so the South European region and the Balkan countries, have really a lot to offer within the European market and the global market then as well, meaning that we are going into this digitalization, law compliance, smart specialization, and all those long-term investment goals with really honest and good thoughts in our heads, so that those things are the future development of our countries, the respectful individual countries, but then as well the region as a whole. And with that, I would finish. So please, Andrei.
Thank you, Tanya.
Okay,
Go ahead, Andrei.
Okay, so it is my turn to close this event. We are a little bit past the time that we allocated at the very beginning. I will do this thanking you, everybody, obviously, for the participation in this very first edition of 3B ICT Network Regional Talks. We hope to build a tradition and make this a regular event where we give space to discuss important topics and the floor to experts from the industry, from policymakers, from people from the public services and researchers and innovators in general. But most of all, we hope we can give you, the participants, some food for thought, and why not good ideas to follow through. Some conclusions from my side. I put some conclusions here. I just want to go quickly through this. Clusters are agents of change. By the way, this is one of the phrases that we at the Cluj IT cluster have been using in our presentation deck and on our website since quite some years. So I like this very, very much. Like with the economic and financial crisis that broke out in 2017, the IT sector continued to grow during the COVID-19 crisis, despite the general unfavorable conditions. However, there are concerns regarding the sustainability of this situation because many organizations have taken up digital tools as they were forced to do so and not as part of a long-term vision. However, there is more and more strategic approach from companies and organizations from other sectors than digital. Education and awareness are crucial in making this transformation a reality across all stakeholders. Clusters should play an active role in this effort. Also, another one is that Europe should play its cards right on the global level and keep to its principles and ethics so that we all create together a pan-European platform of trust where technology is used for the benefit of people and communities. Europe should consolidate its internal market and create opportunities for European companies. I like this idea from Sebastiano very much. And last but not least, 3B ICT Network should become a trustworthy partner for decision makers and other sectors from across our regions. There have been many other ideas discussed, obviously. As I promised at the beginning of our event, we had some quality people with us, so it was only natural that good ideas have been raised during the discussion. So thank you to the panelists once again. Thank you, Philip, for an excellent moderation of the expert panel, despite some technical challenges that you were confronted with. But hey, it's part of the experience. And thank you to all the participants. That the fact that you stayed with us until the end is very much appreciated. On behalf of 3B ICT Network and until next time, I wish you all the best and a beautiful COVID-free summer. And why not? Let's hope that we will have the chance to meet in person sometime in the future.